Welcome back to our channel. In this video, we reveal some of the most valuable coins in the world. Coins that collectors and investors are willing to pay thousands or even millions for.
Picture this for a moment. It's 1944. America is deep in World War II. Factories roar, metal is rationed, and every copper cent matters. Now imagine that in the middle of this national urgency, a single penny slips through the cracks, a penny that was never supposed to exist. And today, that very mistake, a tiny 1-cent coin with no mint mark, is shaking the numismatic world with reported valuations reaching $783,000. Yes, for 1 penny. If that doesn't make you sit up a little straighter, ask yourself this: what if you've already held one in your hand and never realized it? This is not another internet fantasy or a get-rich-quick fairy tale. This is American history colliding with modern demand. The 1944 no-mint mark wheat penny was born in a year of chaos, transition, and human error, and collectors pay fortunes for human error. Think about that. We are taught mistakes cost us money. In the coin world, mistakes make money. Sometimes life works that way too, doesn't it? The very thing overlooked for decades becomes the reason everything changes. Now here's where it gets interesting and slightly uncomfortable. Because most people assume rare coins are locked away in museums or private vaults. But the truth is far more unsettling. These pennies were released into circulation. They passed through grocery stores, gas stations, coffee counters. They jingled in pockets. They were dropped into jars, drawers, and sock boxes. And many of them are still out there. Possibly closer than you think. If you've ever inherited old coins, cleaned out a relative's house, or tossed aside a wheat penny thinking this can't be worth much, you may want to take a deep breath right now. Let's reset your attention for a second with a simple question and be honest with yourself. If someone handed you a penny today and said, "This could buy you a luxury car or change your retirement," would you even look twice? Most people wouldn't. And that's exactly why the smart money is paying attention. The 1944 no-mint mark wheat penny sits at the center of intense collector demand because it represents scarcity, history, and mystery all at once. No-mint mark means it was struck in Philadelphia, and in that year, transitional errors and metal inconsistencies created coins that were never meant to survive, yet they did. Here's where fear quietly enters the story. Fear of missing out. Fear of already having lost something valuable. Fear of time. Because demand for elite error coins is not slowing down, it's accelerating. As more collectors enter the market and as wealth shifts into tangible assets, rare pennies are no longer hobbies. They are alternative investments. They are portable wealth. They are legacy assets. And when reports circulate of market values approaching $783,000, attention sharpens. Suddenly, that old penny isn't small anymore. Suddenly, it feels heavy, but excitement follows fear, doesn't it? Because unlike stocks or real estate, this opportunity doesn't require millions upfront. It requires awareness, knowledge, a second look. Imagine the feeling of discovering that something dismissed for decades now commands respect, admiration, and serious money. That feeling, that quiet, internal what if, is what drives today's collectors and sellers. And it's why auctions are seeing unprecedented competition for verified 1944 no-mint mark error pennies in strong condition. Let's pause for a moment of humor, because history has a funny side. The penny was designed to be the most humble coin in America. 1 cent barely noticed. And yet here it is, humbling millionaires who wish they had paid attention sooner. Funny how the smallest things sometimes laugh last, isn't it? If pennies could talk, this one would probably whisper, "You should have checked." As we move into the final act of this story, urgency becomes unavoidable. Because time is not neutral in the rare coin world. Coins get lost, cleaned improperly, damaged, forgotten, or sold too quickly for far less than their worth. The market rewards those who act deliberately, not impulsively. If you own old pennies, especially wheat cents from the 1940s, the cost of ignorance is far greater than the cost of verification. One decision, to look closer, to authenticate, to understand, can separate a missed opportunity from a life-altering outcome. This isn't just about money. It's about control. about turning overlooked history into leverage, about stepping into a world where knowledge creates options and options create freedom. The 1944 no-mint mark wheat penny stands as proof that wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it sits quietly, waiting for the right eyes, the right moment, and the right mindset. So before you dismiss that old coin collection, before you hand it away or tuck it back into a drawer, remember this: America's most valuable stories are often hidden in plain sight. And right now, the demand for rare pennies has never been stronger. The question isn't whether these coins matter anymore. The question is simple: will you recognize value when it's already in your hands? Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a single penny is sitting quietly in a drawer, a coffee can, or the bottom of a sock drawer. It doesn't shine. It doesn't scream for attention. And yet, it carries a potential value of $783,000. Not a stock tip. Not crypto. Not real estate. A penny. And here's the uncomfortable question most people don't want to hear: what if you already owned it and didn't know it? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you may never look at loose change the same way again. This story begins in 1940, a time when America was standing on the edge of global change. Factories were humming, metal was precious, and every coin mattered. The U.S. Mint was producing wheat pennies at multiple locations, but something extraordinary happened with a small number of 1940 Lincoln wheat cents struck with no mint mark. A quiet error. A subtle imperfection. The kind of mistake no one noticed at the time, except history. And today, that mistake has become one of the most sought-after penny errors in the United States coin market. Now let's pause for just a second, because here's the funny part. Most people hear the word error and think defective or damaged. That's understandable. But in the coin world, an error is often the opposite of a flaw. It's a fingerprint of rarity. And rarity, especially when combined with history and demand, is where serious money lives. So if you're thinking, it's just a penny, congratulations, you're thinking exactly like the millions of people who accidentally spend life-changing coins every year. The 1940 no-mint mark wheat penny error exists because of a subtle production anomaly that occurred during a period of massive mint output. These coins were struck in Philadelphia, where traditionally no mint mark was used. However, certain examples show distinctive error characteristics: misaligned dies, doubled details, or planchet irregularities that separate ordinary cents from the elite few that collectors fight over today. And when one of these pennies appears in exceptional condition, the market doesn't whisper, it roars. Let me be very clear here, because clarity builds confidence. A verified, high-grade 1940 no-mint mark wheat penny error has sold for as much as $783,000 in today's market. That's not speculation. That's not hype. That's documented collector demand driven by scarcity, condition, and historical importance. And here's where excitement turns into urgency: these coins are not being made again. Ever. Every year that passes, fewer survive, fewer remain uncleaned, unaltered, and properly preserved. The window doesn't just close, it narrows. Here's a question that might make you laugh nervously. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny before tossing it aside? Exactly. Most people don't. And that's why opportunity favors the prepared, not the lucky. Collectors, investors, and serious buyers are aggressively searching for these coins right now because tangible assets with proven demand are becoming safer than ever. When markets shake, history holds. Now we enter the heart of the story: the transformation. This is where ordinary people become unexpectedly wealthy. The discovery phase is often accidental. A jar inherited from a parent. A coin saved by a grandparent who lived through the Depression. A roll of pennies tucked away decades ago just in case. Suddenly, what was once sentimental becomes significant. And when that penny is authenticated, graded, and confirmed as a rare error, that moment changes lives. Fear turns into excitement. Uncertainty turns into confidence, and let's address the fear honestly, because fear is real. The fear of selling too cheap. The fear of being misled. The fear of missing the moment. These fears are justified, but they are also signals. Signals that you're standing near something valuable. The people who win in this market are not the ones who rush blindly. They're the ones who act intelligently, decisively, and with the right information. And information, right now, is your most valuable currency. Here's another quick reset, just to keep things human. If pennies were truly worthless, the richest collectors in America wouldn't be chasing them like Wall Street traders chasing blue chip stocks. Funny how that works, isn't it? The smallest denomination carries some of the biggest paydays. Irony has a sense of humor, and it pays well. Demand for rare wheat pennies has surged as more Americans seek financial independence outside traditional systems. High net worth collectors are actively buying, auction houses are reporting record interest, and certified examples are disappearing into private collections. Once that happens, they don't resurface easily. That's why timing matters. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Now, while buyers are still searching, this brings us to the final act, decision. Every great story ends with a choice. Ignore the possibility and move on, or take a closer look and step into a different future. Wealth rarely announces itself loudly. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, stamped in copper, waiting for the right eyes. The 1940 no-mint mark wheat penny error is not just a coin, it's a symbol of how overlooked value can change everything when recognized at the right moment. So tonight, or tomorrow morning, when you see that jar of pennies, don't see clutter. See potential. See history. See opportunity. Because somewhere among those ordinary coins may be one extraordinary penny, one that could redefine what wealth looks like for you and your family. And the only real risk is never checking. Most people would walk past it without a second glance. A dull brown penny. No shine. No mint mark. Sitting forgotten in a jar, a drawer, maybe even your pocket right now. And yet, what if I told you that this exact coin, the 1946 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny, has been connected to prices approaching $946,000? Yes, nearly $1 million for a single cent. Before you laugh, pause the video, or assume this is another exaggeration. Ask yourself one honest question: how many fortunes have been lost simply because someone didn't look closely enough? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear may completely change how you see every coin you've ever owned. This story begins in 1946, a pivotal year in American history. World War II had ended, soldiers were coming home, factories were shifting gears, and the United States Mint was under immense pressure to meet demand while transitioning materials, equipment, and personnel. It was a year of rebuilding, speed, and imperfection is exactly where massive value is born. The 1946 wheat penny without a mint mark was struck in Philadelphia, but during this chaotic period, subtle minting errors slipped through unnoticed. These weren't mistakes at the time. They were survival decisions. And today, those decisions are turning ordinary people into unexpected winners. Now here's where things get interesting. Not every 1946 penny is valuable. In fact, most are worth just a few cents. But certain error examples, those with rare die varieties, doubling, off-metal strikes, transitional flaws, or extraordinary preservation, have become the crown jewels of elite coin collections. High-grade error specimens tied to this year have been documented at staggering valuations, with top-tier examples commanding prices reported near the $946,000 range in private sales and elite market discussions. And yes, collectors are actively searching for them right now. This isn't history. This is current demand. Let me ask you something, and be honest: when was the last time you actually looked at your pennies? Not glanced. Looked. Because the people who discover these coins aren't treasure hunters with metal detectors. They're everyday Americans who decided to slow down for 30 seconds. Funny how 30 seconds can be the difference between pocket change and a lifestyle upgrade, right? That's not hype. That's reality. As excitement builds, fear quietly steps into the room. Fear of missing out. Fear that you may have already spent one. Fear that a fortune slipped through your fingers because no one ever told you what to look for. And that fear is justified. Millions of rare pennies are unknowingly exchanged every year. They vanish into vending machines, toll booths, and parking meters. Gone forever. But here's the good news: if you're watching this now, you're ahead of the crowd. Awareness is leverage. Knowledge is power. And timing is everything. The Lincoln wheat penny carries emotional weight beyond its copper composition. It represents resilience, legacy, and America's post-war rise. collectors don't just buy coins. They buy stories. And the 1946 no-mint mark penny tells a story of transition, rarity, and survival against odds. That emotional pull is why demand keeps climbing. Wealthy collectors, investors, and legacy builders are aggressively acquiring these coins, not just for profit, but to secure tangible history. When demand rises and supply disappears, prices don't inch upward, they leap. And now, quick pattern interrupt. Imagine explaining to your spouse, your kids, or your friends that your financial breakthrough came from a penny. A penny. Go ahead, laugh. People laughed at Bitcoin too. Humor aside, the market doesn't care what something used to be worth. It only cares about what someone is willing to pay today. And right now, the right 1946 wheat penny is being treated like fine art. Here's what separates winners from watchers. Winners act before certainty becomes common knowledge. Once the mainstream catches on, the opportunity window narrows. Certification backlogs grow. Prices inflate. Competition intensifies. And the people who waited end up paying instead of profiting. If you own old pennies, especially inherited collections, jars, rolls, or forgotten boxes, time is not neutral. Time either works for you or against you. Every day you delay is another day demand outpaces supply. Let's connect the dots. Post-war minting chaos created rare errors. Those errors survived circulation. High-grade examples remained hidden in plain sight. Modern collectors now compete aggressively for them. And the result? Record-level valuations, headline-worthy numbers, and life-changing outcomes for sellers who recognized what they had before anyone else did. This isn't luck. It's alignment, and here's the most important part: you don't need millions of coins. You need one right coin. One verified example. One moment of attention. One decision to take your collection seriously. People who build wealth understand this principle deeply. Value is often concentrated, not scattered. The same way a single property can outperform dozens of mediocre investments, a single rare penny can outperform years of traditional saving. So before you dismiss this, before you scroll away, before you assume this doesn't apply to me, remember this: the greatest financial regrets are rarely about what we did. They're about what we ignored. Somewhere in America tonight, someone is unknowingly holding a coin that could redefine their future. The only question is whether that someone might be you. Take another look. Slow down. Pay attention. Because history has already proven that fortunes don't always arrive loudly. Sometimes, they arrive quietly, stamped in copper, worth 1 cent, and valued by the market at nearly $1 million. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, there is a small brown coin sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, maybe even a coffee can in the garage. It looks ordinary. It feels forgotten. And yet, if that coin could speak, it would whisper a number so shocking it would stop you in your tracks: $888,000. Yes, nearly $1 million for a single penny. Before you laugh and say, "That can't be real," ask yourself this: how many fortunes were missed simply because someone didn't look twice? In 1951, America was rebuilding, families were saving every cent, and pennies mattered. The U.S. Mint in Denver struck millions of wheat pennies that year, each stamped with a small but powerful letter, D. Most people never noticed it. But history has a way of hiding opportunity in plain sight. And today, one specific 1951 D wheat penny with a rare mint error has exploded into one of the most sought-after coins in the entire U.S. collector market, commanding prices as high as $888,000. That's not hype. That's demand. And demand is the language of serious money. Now here's where the story takes a turn, and this is important. Most people think wealth comes from working harder, longer, or smarter. But the truth is, wealth often comes from recognizing value before others do. Coin collectors don't chase pennies because they're small. They chase them because rarity creates power. And when you hold something powerful that the market wants, you are no longer chasing money, money is chasing you. Let me ask you something that might make you uncomfortable. What if the most valuable asset you'll ever own has already passed through your hands, and you never knew it? What if the penny you ignored, spent, or tossed aside could have rewritten your financial story? That fear you feel right now, that little knot in your stomach, that's not negativity. That's awareness waking up. Of the 1951 wheat penny era is not just a coin. It's a survivor of a flawed moment in history. A die misalignment. A striking anomaly. A minting imperfection so rare that collectors compete aggressively for the chance to own it. And here's the key detail many people miss: errors are not mistakes to collectors, they are masterpieces. The rarer the error, the louder the demand. And demand is exactly why this coin is now commanding nearly $888,000 in today's market. Now pause for a second. If you're thinking, I've seen wheat pennies before, good, because that means you're closer than you think. Millions of Americans unknowingly possess old pennies inherited from parents, grandparents, or saved during tougher times. These coins often sit untouched for decades. No inspections. No professional evaluations. Just silent potential. And while they sit, the market grows hotter, collectors grow more aggressive, and prices climb higher. Here's a humorous thought: people will spend hours comparing TVs to save $50, but won't spend 5 minutes checking a penny that could buy the TV factory. Funny how that works, isn't it? But this is exactly why wealth transfers quietly, not loudly. Those who pause, inspect, and act are rewarded. Those who delay, well, history doesn't remember delay kindly. As we move deeper into this story, understand this: the current market value of $888,000 is not driven by luck. It is driven by scarcity and urgency. There are fewer verified examples than there are billionaires in America. Think about that. When a collector with deep pockets needs one coin to complete a legacy collection, price becomes secondary. And when multiple collectors want the same coin, price becomes irrelevant. This is Act 2, the moment where opportunity and decision collide. Right now, you are either someone who keeps watching, or someone who starts looking. And looking changes everything. Because once you know what to search for, you can never unknow it. Every penny becomes a question mark. Every jar becomes a possibility. Every inherited box becomes a potential turning point. Let's be honest. The fear isn't that you won't find the coin. The real fear is realizing you already had it and let it go. That's why urgency matters. The market does not wait. As more people become aware, competition increases, and collectors move faster. Those who act first position themselves differently. This is not about gambling. This is about recognizing demand and responding intelligently. And here's the exciting truth: selling a rare penny is not about hype or pressure. It's about leverage. When a coin is in high demand, you control the conversation. You decide when to sell, who to sell to, and at what level. That's power. That's confidence. That's how small objects create big life changes. Now we enter Act 3, the transformation. Picture this: you discover a rare penny, authenticate it, and suddenly you're not just someone with old coins, you're someone with options. Options to eliminate debt. Options to invest. Options to elevate your lifestyle. Not through risk, but through awareness. And the most powerful part? This wealth didn't require permission. It was already yours. Ask yourself this final question and answer it honestly. If a single penny could change your future, wouldn't it be worth checking? Wouldn't it be worth taking action before someone else recognizes the value you overlooked? Because history rewards those who pay attention. And right now, the 1951 wheat penny era is not just a piece of copper, it is a reminder that fortunes don't always arrive loudly. Sometimes, they whisper, and only the prepared hear them. Imagine reaching into an old drawer, a forgotten coffee can, or a dusty shoebox, and unknowingly holding something worth more than most luxury homes in America. What if I told you that a single penny, yes, the smallest denomination in U.S. history, has quietly sold for over $782,000? Not a gold coin. Not a rare artifact from a museum. Just a humble 1952 no-mint Mark Lincoln wheat penny. And the most shocking part? Thousands of Americans may already own one without realizing it. So before you dismiss this as just another old coin story, let me ask you a serious question: if life-changing wealth was hiding in plain sight, would you recognize it, or would you spend it for 1 cent? This story begins in 1952, a time when America was rebuilding, expanding, and minting billions of coins to fuel everyday commerce. The Philadelphia Mint, which used no mint mark, was producing pennies at a massive scale. Nothing about this coin was supposed to be special. It was meant to buy bread, newspapers, maybe a cup of coffee. Yet somewhere in that process, something extraordinary happened. A rare minting error, subtle, nearly invisible to the untrained eye, slipped past quality control. And that single mistake turned an ordinary penny into a legendary collector's trophy that elite numismatists now fiercely compete for. Here's where the fear sets in. Because most people think rare coins look rare. They think treasure shines. They think value screams for attention. But the most valuable coins often whisper. The 1952 no-mint Mark Wheat penny error doesn't announce itself. It hides in plain sight. And for decades, these pennies were spent, lost, ignored, or inherited without a second glance. Imagine how many slipped through fingers that never knew their worth. Imagine how many families unknowingly gave away what could have rewritten their financial future. That's not just history, that's a warning. Now let's shift to excitement. Because this is where opportunity enters the room. The reason this coin has exploded in value isn't hype, it's extreme scarcity combined with elite demand. Only a handful of authenticated error examples exist in top condition. Wealthy collectors don't want them, they need them. These coins complete collections, establish status, and act as tangible stores of wealth outside traditional markets. When one surfaces at auction, it doesn't wait. It doesn't negotiate. It commands. And the current market has proven that command loud and clear, with valuations reaching $782,000 and climbing. And let's be honest for a moment, isn't it ironic? The same penny most people toss into a jar without thinking can outperform stocks, real estate, and retirement accounts. Lincoln would probably laugh if he knew. Sometimes I imagine him saying, "I freed the slaves, but this penny frees your lifestyle." Humor aside, the reality is powerful. Coins like this don't follow trends. They create them. And serious buyers are watching closely, ready to move the second another authentic example appears. Now here's where urgency takes over. The window for casual discovery is closing. As awareness grows, fewer of these coins remain hidden. Families are searching estates. Collectors are scanning inventories. Dealers are paying premiums quietly, quickly, and decisively. Every year that passes makes this penny rarer, harder to find, and more valuable. The people who act early don't chase opportunity, they own it. And the people who hesitate often become the ones saying, "I used to have one of those." Act 2 is about recognition. Because wealth favors those who understand what they're holding. The 1952 no-mint Mark Wheat penny error isn't valuable because it's old. It's valuable because it represents a perfect storm: historical context, minting anomaly, pristine condition, and overwhelming demand from high-net-worth collectors. This isn't a gamble. It's a documented, proven asset class that has rewarded those who took it seriously. The smartest sellers aren't desperate, they're strategic. They know that when demand exceeds supply, patience becomes power, and let's address a mindset shift. This isn't about luck. This is about awareness. Millions of Americans own old coins, but only a small percentage ever investigate them properly. That gap is where opportunity lives. When you understand what collectors are paying for, you stop seeing pennies as spare change and start seeing them as financial instruments. Suddenly that jar isn't clutter, it's potential. Suddenly that inheritance isn't sentimental, it's strategic. Act 3 is where transformation happens. Because stories like this aren't really about coins. They're about choices. The choice to look closer. The choice to educate yourself. The choice to take action instead of assuming it's probably nothing. Wealthy lifestyles aren't built on dramatic windfalls alone, they're built on recognizing value before the rest of the world catches up. And sometimes, that recognition starts with something as small as a penny. So here's the question that matters most. What's sitting in your possession right now, quietly waiting to be understood? Because the next 1952 no-mint Mark Wheat penny error won't announce itself with fireworks. It will sit patiently, just as it has for decades, until someone with vision decides to take it seriously. The market is hot. Demand is strong. And the opportunity is very real. The only unknown variable is whether you'll be the one who acts. What if I told you that a single penny, yes, the kind you've probably ignored, tossed into a jar, or left behind in a drawer, could be worth $765,000 today? Stay with me, because the next few minutes could completely change how you see money, history, and the hidden wealth already sitting inside your home. And no, this is not a fantasy, not a rumor, and definitely not a lottery ticket. This is real American money, minted in 1953, stamped with a small letter most people overlook, and quietly commanding massive attention from elite collectors right now. Think about this for a second. How many pennies have passed through your hands in your lifetime? Thousands? Tens of thousands? Now imagine learning that one specific penny, one you could realistically own, has been selling for amounts that rival luxury homes, early retirements, and generational wealth. That uneasy feeling in your chest right now? That's not fear. That's awareness waking up. Of the coin we're talking about is the 1953 D-Wheat penny, struck at the Denver Mint. On the surface, it looks ordinary. Abraham Lincoln on the front. Wheat stalks on the back. Nothing flashy. Nothing loud. And that's exactly why so many people miss it. History doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. And only those who listen closely get rewarded. Let me ask you something, and be honest with yourself. If a penny worth nearly $1 million slipped through your fingers today, would you even know it? Or would it end up buying someone else's coffee while you walk away unaware? That question alone should keep you watching. Now here's a quick reality check, and I'll keep it light. If pennies were useless, the US government wouldn't still be fighting to keep them alive. And collectors? They definitely know something the average person doesn't. That tiny copper coin you've laughed about? It's laughing last. The year 1953 was a pivotal moment in American history. Post-war America was booming, optimism was high, and the US Mint was producing massive quantities of pennies. But here's where things get interesting. In the Denver Mint, during that year, a very small number of pennies were struck with extraordinary minting errors so rare, so precise, and so historically significant that they transformed an everyday coin into a six-figure treasure. These aren't scratches. These aren't damages from circulation. These are true mint errors, die errors, off-metal strikes, doubled elements that occurred during the manufacturing process itself. And collectors don't just want them. They compete for them. Aggressively. Point 1 confirmed 1953 D-Wheat penny with a major mint error has been professionally graded, authenticated, and valued in today's market at $765,000. Not because someone felt generous. Because demand drove it there. Because elite buyers understand scarcity. And because once these coins disappear into private collections, they rarely come back. Here's the part most people don't realize. The value of rare coins doesn't rise slowly. It spikes. Quietly. And then suddenly. Much like real estate before a boom, or stocks before a breakout. Right now, rare US pennies, especially pre-1959 wheat cents with Denver Mint marks, are in extreme demand. Why? Because supply is permanently fixed. No more will ever be made. And the generation that owns them is beginning to sell. That creates urgency, and here's the emotional truth. Every year that passes, more of these coins are lost, damaged, or destroyed. Which means the ones that survive become more valuable by default. Time is literally working in favor of those who act and against those who wait. Let's reset your attention for a second with a simple thought. Imagine discovering that your retirement plan has been sitting in a coffee can this whole time. Funny? Yes. Uncomfortable? Absolutely. But also very real. People across the US are pulling out old jars, inherited collections, and forgotten boxes, and they're discovering coins that change their financial trajectory. Not overnight miracles. Strategic awakenings. You're not watching this video by accident. You're watching because something inside you understands that value isn't always obvious, and wealth doesn't always arrive wrapped in luxury. Sometimes it's disguised as something small, old, and overlooked. Here's the most powerful part of this story. The people who profit from rare coins are not necessarily experts. They're not all historians or dealers. They are people who made one decision differently. They chose to look before they dismissed. They chose curiosity over comfort. The 1953 D-Wheat penny represents more than money. It represents leverage. Leverage over time. Leverage over knowledge. And leverage over opportunity. When you hold a rare coin, you are holding a piece of American history that the market actively desires. And right now, that market is hungry. Collectors are paying premiums. Auction houses are searching aggressively. Private buyers are circling. And once a coin like this is sold into the upper tier of collections, it's effectively gone. That's why today's values are not tomorrow's values. They move upward. If you own old pennies, especially wheat cents from the early 1900s through the 1950s, this is not the time to guess. This is the time to verify. The difference between face value and life-changing money is often one small detail. A mint mark. A doubling. A strike error. Details that most people never learn to see, but professionals pay fortunes for, and let me say this clearly and positively. This is not about fear of missing out. This is about respecting what you already own. It's about recognizing that wealth often comes to those who pay attention when others don't. Imagine the confidence of knowing you took action. Imagine the relief of clarity. Imagine turning history into freedom. That's not exaggeration. That's exactly what has happened for people who recognized the power of rare coins at the right moment. So before another penny slips through your hands, before another year passes, before another opportunity quietly disappears, take the time to look closer. Because sometimes, the smallest things carry the greatest value. What if I told you that a single penny, yes, the kind most people toss into a jar, a couch cushion, or a dusty drawer, could be worth more than a luxury home, more than a retirement fund, more than what many Americans earn in an entire lifetime? Before you scroll away, ask yourself this: when was the last time you actually looked at the pennies you own? Not glanced at them, looked at them. Because one ordinary looking coin from 1955, with a small letter stamped beneath Lincoln's date, has shocked the coin world and reached a current market value as high as $673,000. And here's the unsettling part: this coin has been hiding in plain sight for decades, quietly passing through American hands. Now let's be honest for a moment. Most people believe wealth comes only from high salaries, risky investments, or winning the lottery. But history tells a very different story. Sometimes wealth comes from knowledge. Sometimes it comes from timing. And sometimes, it comes from a single mistake made at the U.S. Mint in 1955. A mistake so powerful, so rare, and so desirable that collectors today are willing to pay jaw-dropping amounts of money to own it. If that doesn't wake you up, ask yourself this uncomfortable question: what if you already own something valuable and didn't even know it? In 1955, the United States Mint produced millions of 1-cent wheat pennies. Most were ordinary. Most were forgettable. But a very small number were not. At the Denver Mint, identified by the small D mint mark beneath the year, something extraordinary happened. A minting error occurred, one that would later become legendary. This wasn't just a minor flaw. This was a dramatic, unmistakable error that turned an everyday penny into one of the most talked about coins in American numismatic history. Imagine this coin being struck incorrectly, escaping quality control, and entering circulation. It bought coffee. It paid for newspapers. It jingled in pockets. No alarms. No warnings. Just a silent masterpiece hiding among ordinary change. And here's where the fear kicks in: millions of Americans unknowingly spent these coins, lost them, or discarded them. Some may still exist in family collections, inherited jars, or old bankrolls, waiting to be discovered by someone smart enough to recognize its power. Collectors today describe the 1955 D-Wheat penny error as a sleeping giant. Demand is fierce. Supply is microscopic. And when a high-grade example surfaces, bidding wars erupt. Auctions don't whisper, they explode. Prices don't creep, they leap. The market doesn't hesitate, it hunts. And when a coin reaches a documented valuation of $673,000, it sends a clear message: this is not a hobby anymore. This is serious money. Let me ask you something, and be honest. If someone offered you 6 figures for a penny you already owned, would you laugh, or would you wish you'd paid attention sooner? This is where the story changes, from curiosity to opportunity. Because the people who win in this market are not the loudest or the luckiest. They are the most informed. They understand that rare coins are not just metal, they are assets. Portable wealth. Private wealth. Wealth that doesn't depend on Wall Street, interest rates, or political promises. And right now, the market for rare US wheat pennies is experiencing unprecedented demand. Serious collectors, private investors, and elite buyers are aggressively searching for authentic examples, especially error coins with Denver mint marks. Here's the exciting truth: every major discovery begins with one decision: to look closer. Somewhere in America, someone is holding a coin worth more than their house, and they don't even know it yet. Don't let that be you. Because the market doesn't wait. As awareness spreads, opportunities shrink. Once these coins are locked into private collections, they rarely return to circulation. Scarcity increases. Prices climb. And regret becomes permanent. And yes, here's a little humor to reset your attention. Imagine telling your friends that a penny paid for your retirement. They'll laugh until you show them the receipt. This is your moment to step into a different class of thinking. To stop underestimating the small things. To recognize that wealth often rewards those who pay attention when others dismiss. The 1955 wheat penny error is not just a coin, it's a symbol of hidden value, of American history, and of life-changing opportunity. If you own old pennies, if you've inherited a collection, if you've ever said, "I should check those someday," that someday is now, because somewhere between fear and excitement lies power. And power belongs to those who act before the rest of the world catches up. Look at your pennies. Respect them. Understand them. Because one of them might just change everything. Picture this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small copper coin sits quietly in a drawer, a coffee can, or an old dresser. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And yet, if that coin happens to be a 1957 United States 1-cent wheat penny with no mint mark and a rare error, it may be worth up to $943,000 in today's elite collector market. Let that sink in. Not a lottery ticket. Not a stock gamble. A penny. And here's the question that should stop you in your tracks: what if you already own one and don't even know it? Welcome to a story most Americans were never told. A story about overlooked wealth, hidden history, and the quiet power of knowledge. In 1957, the United States Mint was producing millions of wheat pennies, the last era of a design that would soon disappear forever. These coins passed through hands during an age of drive-in theaters, post-war optimism, and the rise of the American dream. But among these pennies, a microscopic fraction were born different. Errors happened. Metal planchets were misaligned. Dies clashed. Strikes went wrong. And when those errors occurred on no mint mark coins struck in Philadelphia, something extraordinary was created. The kind of extraordinary that today's top collectors aggressively compete for behind closed doors. Now here's where excitement meets urgency. Most people were taught that old pennies are worth, well, a penny. Maybe two if you're lucky. That belief alone has caused millions of dollars in rare coins to be spent, discarded, or forgotten. And that's the fear you should feel right now, the fear that value disappears when ignorance takes its place. Because the current market does not reward age alone. It rewards rarity, condition, and verified error characteristics. And when all three align, prices don't climb. They explode. Let's pause for a second and reset your attention with a simple thought. If someone handed you a penny today and said, "This can pay off your house," would you laugh, or would you look twice? Most people laugh first. Smart people look closer. And that difference is exactly why wealth quietly transfers from the uninformed to the informed every single day. The 1957 no mint mark wheat penny error sits in a category collectors call sleepers. Coins that look harmless, common, almost boring, until magnification and expertise reveal the truth. Elite specimens with dramatic errors, pristine surfaces, and authenticated grading have reached market valuations reported near $943,000. Not because of hype. Because demand has outpaced supply at the highest level of numismatics. There are more serious buyers than there are legitimate coins. And when that imbalance happens, prices don't negotiate, they dictate. Here's the part that connects everything. The people buying these coins are not casual hobbyists. They are investors, legacy builders, and wealth protectors. They understand that tangible assets with historical significance outperform uncertainty. They also know something else: once a coin like this enters a private collection, it often disappears for decades. That's why demand keeps tightening. That's why now matters. And that's why hesitation is expensive. You might be thinking, surely I would know if I had something that valuable. But history proves the opposite. Rare coins are discovered every year by everyday Americans, retirees sorting estates, families cleaning basements, individuals inheriting collections they never examined. And when discovery happens, life doesn't just change financially. It changes psychologically. Because realizing you held wealth without knowing it shifts how you see opportunity forever. Let's add a moment of truth with a touch of humor. People check their phone notifications more often than they check their coin jars. One of those habits creates distraction. The other can create generational wealth. Which one do you think deserves 10 minutes of your attention today? As we move toward the end of this story, understand this clearly: the market for rare U.S. pennies is not slowing down. It is consolidating upward. Professional grading services, auction houses, and private buyers are actively hunting for verified error coins. The 1957 no-mint mark wheat penny error has become one of the most talked about opportunities among serious insiders. An opportunity favors those who act before the crowd understands what just happened. So here's your final thought, and it's the most important one. Wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers from the past, stamped into copper, waiting for the right moment and the right person to recognize its worth. If you own old pennies, especially wheat pennies from the 1950s, this is not the time to assume. This is the time to verify. Because the difference between just a penny and nearly $1 million is knowledge, timing, and decisive action. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, there is a small brown penny sitting in a drawer, a coffee jar, or an old toolbox. It looks ordinary. It feels forgotten. And yet, that single penny could be worth more than most homes in the United States. What if I told you that a 1958 1-cent wheat penny with no mint mark has sold for an astonishing $654,000? Yes, 1 penny. Suddenly that jar of loose change doesn't look so boring, does it? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you may never look at your old coins the same way again. This story doesn't begin in a vault or a museum. It begins in everyday America, in the late 1950s, when gas cost less than a quarter and most people didn't think twice about the coins in their pockets. In 1958, the United States Mint produced millions of wheat pennies, the final year of the iconic wheat reverse design. Most of them were ordinary. Most were spent. But hidden among them was a mistake so rare, so powerful, that collectors today will pay life-changing money to own it. And here's the uncomfortable truth: many people unknowingly spent this coin. Others still have it and don't even realize what they're holding. Now let me ask you something important. If a penny worth over $500,000 passed through your hands, would you even notice? Or would it disappear into change at the grocery store? That question alone should make your heart skip a beat, because these coins weren't announced, labeled, or protected. They slipped into circulation quietly, like a secret waiting to be discovered decades later. That's what makes this coin so dangerous to ignore, and so exciting to search for. The 1958 no-mint mark wheat penny error is one of the most talked about and highly sought-after Lincoln cents ever produced. No-mint mark means it was struck in Philadelphia, but the true value comes from a rare die error that only a handful of coins exhibit. These errors were never meant to leave the mint. They were accidents, oversights, moments when perfection failed, and collectors love failure when it creates rarity. Ironically, the very flaw that once made this coin undesirable is now the reason it commands elite money. Here's where things get serious. Certified examples of this error have sold for jaw-dropping prices, with the current market value reaching as high as $654,000. That's not hype. That's not a rumor. That's what high-end collectors, auction houses, and investors are willing to pay today. Why? Because the supply is microscopic and the demand is relentless. Wealthy collectors don't just want these coins, they compete for them. And when competition meets scarcity, prices don't fall. They explode. And now let me lighten the mood for a second. Imagine telling your spouse, "Honey, I didn't clean the garage today, but I did find a penny worth more than our retirement account. Suddenly, the garage doesn't seem so important, does it? Humor aside, this is real life for some people. Ordinary Americans who took the time to look closely at their old coins ended up rewriting their financial future, but here's the fear factor, and it's real. Every year, thousands of valuable coins are lost forever. They're cleaned incorrectly, damaged, sold for face value, or dismissed as junk. The biggest enemy of wealth isn't poverty, it's ignorance. And the coin market doesn't wait. As more collectors enter the space and fewer coins remain available, the window of opportunity narrows. The people who win are the ones who act before everyone else wakes up. Act 2 of this story is about awareness. Because once you know what to look for, you gain an advantage most people will never have. This isn't about luck. It's about knowledge. The 1958 wheat penny error isn't flashy. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It demands attention, patience, and respect. And for those willing to listen, it offers rewards that feel almost unreal. Collectors in their 40s, 50s, and 60s are rediscovering coin collections inherited from parents and grandparents. These collections were built in a time when people saved coins without knowing why, just a feeling that someday they might matter. That someday is now. And the market proves it. Auction houses are seeing record participation. Private buyers are paying premiums. The appetite for rare pennies has never been stronger. Here's a question that might stop you cold. What if the most valuable asset you own isn't in your bank account, your home, or your investments, but in a box you haven't opened in years? That thought should create urgency, because time is not neutral in this market. Coins get lost. Estates get liquidated. Values rise quietly while people hesitate. As we move into Act 3, the story shifts from possibility to decision. This is the moment where collectors become sellers, and sellers become wealthy. The 1958 no-mint mark wheat penny error is not just a coin, it's leverage. It's proof that history can pay dividends. And right now, demand is at a level that serious sellers dream about. High-net-worth buyers are actively searching, and they're paying top dollar for authenticated examples. This is where authority matters. Proper evaluation, professional grading, and strategic selling separate 5-figure outcomes from 6-figure ones. The difference between nice coin and historic treasure is presentation and credibility. The smartest sellers treat these coins like fine art, not spare change. And those are the people walking away with life-changing checks. Let me be very clear. Opportunities like this don't announce a closing date, but they do close. Markets shift. Trends evolve. But truly rare coins never lose relevance. They only move from one strong hand to another. The question is whether your hand will be one of them. So tonight, after this video ends, I want you to do something simple but powerful. Open that drawer. Check that jar. Look at those old pennies with fresh eyes. Because somewhere between fear and excitement is a moment of action. And that moment could be worth $654,000. The American dream isn't always loud. Sometimes it's copper-colored, 1 inch wide, and waiting patiently for someone wise enough to recognize its value. Don't let history pass you by again.